My own daughter stole $800,000 from me. She took the house my husband built with his own hands, drained every account, redirected his pension, and told the church I had dementia so nobody would believe me when I figured it out. She did all of it while bringing me vitamins and calling me mama. But she had no idea what her dead father left behind. I was 72 years old and 6 weeks into the kind of grief that makes you forget to eat. My husband, James, had died on a Thursday morning in April, lung cancer, after a 2-year fight that took everything out of both of us. 47 years of marriage, and at the end, his voice was just a breath with words attached. But even then, even with his hands too weak to hold a glass of water, the last thing he talked about was the house. James Carter was a contractor, not the kind with a glass office and a logo on a golf shirt, but the kind with sawdust in his collar and concrete under his fingernails. He built that house himself in 1979, laid every brick, hung every door, put in every window frame, while I stood in the yard 8 months pregnant with our first daughter, handing him lemonade and telling him to come inside before he passed out from the heat. That house was worth $310,000 by the time he died, but it was worth more than that. It was everything he believed a man should leave behind. His last words to me were about it. He held my hand and said, "Dorothy, don't let nobody take what we built. You hear me? Nobody." I promised him I wouldn't. That was the first promise I broke, because grief is a thief of its own kind. It took my appetite, my attention, my ability to notice when someone's kindness had a price tag on it. Those first weeks after the funeral, I could barely get out of bed. James's side of the mattress still smelled like cedar and Old Spice. Some mornings, I'd sit at the kitchen table for an hour before I remembered I was supposed to eat breakfast. And that's when my eldest daughter decided it was time. Vanessa Howard, 48 years old, good job at an insurance company. Always the organized one. The one with the planner and the color-coded calendar. She showed up the week of the funeral with groceries and a list of things that needed handling, and she never really left after that. She drove me to appointments. She paid the utility bills. She handled all that paperwork that floods in after someone dies. All those forms that assume you have the mental clarity to process them while you're learning to breathe again without the person you breathe alongside for nearly half a century. I was grateful. I need you to understand that. I was genuinely, completely grateful. One afternoon, about 6 weeks after James passed, Vanessa sat down at my kitchen table with a stack of papers and her briefcase and that purposeful look she used to get before a presentation at work. "Mama," she said, "you can't handle all of this by yourself. Let me get power of attorney so I can manage the bills, the insurance, all the house stuff, just until you feel stronger." Her husband, Marcus, was there too. He stood in the kitchen doorway with his arms crossed, watching me sign. Marcus Howard had been in my family for 22 years, and I had never once felt at ease around him. He was the kind of man who smiles with his teeth, but keeps his eyes completely still. James told me once, "That man doesn't love Vanessa. He loves what Vanessa can get him." I thought James was being uncharitable. I was wrong about that too. But that afternoon, I signed. I didn't read every page. I didn't ask the right questions. She was my firstborn. She was there, steady and capable while I was barely functioning. So I signed the power of attorney on November 3rd, and I handed her a key to everything we had built. James's pension was $2,100 a month, deposited reliably into our joint account every first of the month for 14 years. That pension was what kept the lights on after he retired. That pension, plus his Social Security, was what we lived on. I wasn't working. I've been a homemaker for most of my married life, and I've been proud of that, proud of the home I kept, the daughters I raised, the table I set. But it meant that after James died, that pension was my income, my lifeline. I didn't know in the months after I signed those papers that the pension had been redirected. I didn't know the account was draining. I didn't know because Vanessa had redirected the mail. All the bank statements, all the financial documents started going to her address instead of mine. She told me she was handling the paperwork. I believed her. The mail just stopped coming, and I thought that was what managing things looked like. She told the church I had dementia. I found that out later, but I want you to sit with it now because it's important to understand the kind of thinking that was happening behind that devoted daughter smile. Vanessa went to the people I'd worshipped with for 35 years, the people who had brought casseroles to my door after James died, and she told them that poor Dorothy was showing signs of memory loss, that Dorothy was getting confused, that Dorothy needed help because she couldn't really manage on her own anymore. She planted that story like a seed, carefully, before I had any idea what was happening, so that when things came to light, there would already be a version of me in people's minds that didn't know what she was talking about. She did the same thing with my daughters. Gloria called me one Sunday. Mama, I tried to come see you yesterday, but Vanessa said you were resting and couldn't have visitors. I hadn't been resting. I'd been sitting on the front porch all afternoon. Then Renee called. Same story. She'd tried to visit. Vanessa had turned her away, said I was too fragile for company, said the doctor recommended limited stimulation. There was no doctor's recommendation. I hadn't seen a doctor. My youngest, Tanya, lives 3 hours away in Richmond. She'd been calling and going to voicemail, and when she finally got through to me, she was in tears. She said Vanessa had told her I'd changed my phone number because of scam callers. I never changed my number. Vanessa was screening my calls. She ran a two-sided lie. She told my girls I didn't want visitors, that I was too tired, too confused, not up for company. And she told me my girls were too busy to call, that they had their own lives, that I shouldn't take it personally. Neither side knew the other was being deceived. I thought my daughters were pulling away in their grief. They thought I was pushing them away in mine. Meanwhile, my world shrank down to what Vanessa controlled, the mail she let through, the calls she allowed, the vitamins she brought me from the dollar store, the cheap ones with the plastic-looking capsules, while she spent $2,100 of my pension money every month on whatever she and Marcus needed. I didn't know it yet, but I would find out later that Marcus was gambling $500 a week at a card room on the east side, my dead husband's pension, at a card table. But in those months of isolation, I didn't know any of that. I just knew my world felt smaller than it used to be, and I told myself that was grief. I told myself things would open up again when I felt stronger. Then one afternoon I went to pay the water bill and my debit card was declined. I stood at that register, the bill in my hand, and the machine said declined. I tried it again. Declined. I thanked the woman behind the counter, said there must be some mistake, and drove myself to the bank. I walked up to the teller, a young woman with neat braids and reading glasses, and I told her I needed to check on my account. Something might be wrong with my card. She typed my account number into her computer. She looked at the screen. Then she looked at me in a way that told me everything before she said a single word. Ma'am, this account has been closed. Closed. I heard the word, but it didn't land right. That's not possible. My husband and I have had that account for 38 years. She typed something else. It was closed 2 weeks ago. There's a note here that an authorized signer transferred the remaining balance to another account. An authorized signer. I kept my voice even. Can you tell me the name? She hesitated for a half second, just long enough for me to see that she knew this was going to be bad. Vanessa Howard, my oldest daughter. I stood at that counter and did not move. My hands were still on the counter, flat and quiet, and I made myself breathe in and breathe out one time before I said anything else. Is there anything else you can tell me about the account? There wasn't much she could legally say, but she said what she could. The account was closed. The balance at the time of closure had been transferred. Authorized signer, Vanessa Howard. I thanked her. I put the water bill back in my pocketbook, and I walked out of that bank with my head high, the way James always said you walk in like you have every right to be here because you do. I drove home in silence. The whole way, about 12 minutes, I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove and let what I just learned settle into me the way cold settles into old bones, slowly and completely. I thought about the last 8 months, the mail that had stopped coming, the vitamins from the dollar store, the daughters I hadn't seen, the calls that went to voicemail, the papers I'd signed without reading on November 3rd, all those stacks of paper Vanessa had put in front of me while I was too destroyed with grief to think clearly. Just sign here, Mama. It's for the insurance. Just sign here, Mama. It's for the bank. I had handed her everything, one signature at a time. I tried calling Gloria from the driveway. The call rang and rang. I tried Renee. Nothing. I tried Tanya. Voicemail. I didn't know yet whether Vanessa was still screening my outgoing calls somehow, or whether my daughters were just busy, but I couldn't reach any of them. And I sat in that car for a long time. I thought about the $2,100 that wasn't coming anymore. I thought about the house and whether the house was still mine. I thought about James saying, "Don't let nobody take what we built." I thought about how I had promised him I wouldn't, and how I had been sitting in this house for 8 months, believing my eldest daughter was taking care of me while she dismantled everything her father spent a lifetime constructing. I had to know the full shape of it. I had to see the whole thing before I could figure out what to do. I went inside, I sat at the kitchen table, and then I remembered something James had told me 2 weeks before he died. When his voice was barely there and I had to lean close to hear him, he said, "Dorothy, in the family Bible behind the book of Psalms, there's an envelope. Don't open it until you need to. You'll know when." I had forgotten about it. The grief swallowed everything, but now I remembered. I got up from the table and went to the living room shelf. Meanwhile, 60-some miles south in Richmond, my youngest daughter Tanya was staring at her phone. She hadn't spoken to me in 3 weeks. She'd called 14 times. She'd texted. She'd asked Vanessa for updates and gotten back the same careful words. "Mama's having a hard stretch. She needs her rest. Give her a little time." But something was wrong, and Tanya knew it the way you know things about the person who raised you. Something was wrong with her mother, and she was going to find out what. And Gloria, who lived 40 minutes away and had a bookkeeper's habit of noticing when numbers don't balance, had been counting days, weeks of silence, weeks of Vanessa speaking for me, answering for me, explaining me to the people who love me. Gloria had called Vanessa twice that week. Polite, patient, getting the same answers. She'd been turned away at my front door once already. Vanessa had stood in the doorway and said, "She's not up for company today. She'll call when she's ready." That was 3 weeks ago. Gloria put down her phone that evening, picked up her car keys, and decided she was not calling first this time. She was going to drive to Oakwood Drive and come through the back gate the way she had every summer of her childhood, and she was going to see her mother with her own eyes. She was 30 minutes out when I found the envelope behind Psalms. My hands were shaking when I opened it. The back gate creaked when Gloria pushed it open. That sound hadn't changed in 40 years. She came across the yard the way she always had as a girl, cutting through the garden past James's rose bushes. I watched her from the kitchen window. My second born, 45 years old, her mother's wide forehead, her father's stubborn chin. She was looking over her shoulder, the way a person looks when they know somebody else's eyes might be on them. That alone. My own daughter, looking over her shoulder at her own mother's house. I opened the back door before she reached the porch. She stopped when she saw me, really stopped. I watched her take me in, and I knew what she was seeing. 8 months of grief and isolation and cheap vitamins and no daughters and no James. I had lost weight I didn't have to lose. My house dress was hanging off me. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she said, "Mama." Just that one word, and all the love and worry and grief and relief in it. "Come inside, baby," I said. "We have work to do." She sat down at the kitchen table and opened her laptop. "Tell me everything." So I told her. The bank, the account closed, the authorized signer, Vanessa Howard. I watched Gloria's face go through about 6 different things in 30 seconds, and not one of them was surprise. What I saw was confirmation. She had already suspected. She had spent weeks telling herself she was wrong. She pulled up my online banking without asking and went to work. A bookkeeper notices patterns the way a carpenter notices when a wall isn't plumb. That eye adjusts, becomes precise, and you cannot unsee what is off. Gloria had that eye. She opened the joint checking account history, the one James and I had held together for 38 years, and she got quiet the way people get quiet when what they're reading is too large to process while also speaking. Mama, the balance at the time of closure, what was it? She turned the screen toward me. $187,422. I had not known the exact number. James handled the finances. That was how we had always done it. And now the number sat in front of me, already gone, and I understood in a single breath what it meant. 40 years of James waking up before sunrise, 40 years of sawdust and concrete and coming home at dark, all of it. Gone, I said. Transferred to Vanessa's name the day the account closed. She clicked to my savings account. Your savings too, Mama? How much? $34,000, also closed, also transferred. She built the total the way she had been trained, methodically, not rushing past any line. She pulled up James's pension records, found the last deposit, found where the redirect notice was filed, 3 days after his funeral. She sat back and put her hands flat on the table, the way I had done at the bank counter. You put your hands down so they don't shake. The pension has been going to Vanessa's account for 8 months, she said. $2,100 every month. Add it up for me, I said. All of it. I want to see the number whole. She typed the sum. $221,422. The number hung between us. $221,422. James building in summer heat. James saying no to things he wanted because we were saving. We were always saving, building something that was supposed to last. I was not going to fall apart at my own kitchen table. Keep looking, I said. I went to the living room shelf, opened the family Bible to Psalms. The envelope was there, white. My name in James's handwriting, the same blocky letters that label every toolbox in his workshop. I carried it back to the kitchen and sat down. Gloria looked up from her screen. I opened the envelope. 3 things, a letter, a small silver key with the number 114 stamped on its face, and a business card. Vernon Coleman, attorney at law, estate planning and elder law. I had never heard of Vernon Coleman. I unfolded the letter and read James's handwriting. My dearest Dorothy, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. A man who builds houses learns to trust his foundation, and something in ours has been cracking for a long time. I don't trust Marcus. I never have. And I'm worried about what Vanessa might do after I'm gone with him whispering in her ear. So I made arrangements. 5 years ago, I set up a trust. The Carter Family Trust, the house, the land on Miller Road, and a life insurance policy I never told you about. The trust cannot be changed by any power of attorney. It overrides everything they may try to file. The house is yours, Dorothy. The key opens a safety deposit box at First National, downtown branch. Box 114, call Mr. Coleman. He knows everything. He's been waiting for your call. He had seen this coming. 5 years before he died, James had looked at the man his daughter married, looked at the way Vanessa was changing, and built a wall I didn't even know was there. Don't let nobody take what we built. You hear me, Dorothy? Nobody. At the end, in smaller handwriting, as if he had added it later. Take care of our girls, all 4, even Vanessa. She wasn't always like this. I pressed the letter against my chest. Gloria's eyes were wet. Daddy knew. Yes, he did. And he made sure she couldn't finish it. I set the letter on the table. The key, the card. I looked at all 3. Call your sisters, not Vanessa. Renee and Tanya, tell them to come to work. Gloria was already reaching for her phone. The 3 of them were on a call within the hour. I sat at the kitchen table while Gloria talked in the other room, steady and precise, the way she gets when the information cannot be softened. I heard the silence on the other end when she said the number. I heard Tanya make a sound that was not quite a word. I heard Renee say, quiet and flat, She needs to be stopped. They divided the work the way James used to divide a job site, each person to the task that fit their skill. Gloria had already mapped the bank accounts. She would trace where every dollar went. Renee, detail-oriented, patient with public records in a way that could outlast Stone, would take the property investigation. Tanya, who had spent 15 years in hospital administration and understood insurance paperwork like air, would take the life insurance. And none of them were going to tell Vanessa a single word. 2 days later, Renee went to the county recorder's office. She went 3 times that week. Each time she came back with more documents in a folder she color-coded red. She came to my kitchen table on the 3rd trip and spread everything out. The gift deed was first, the house James built in 1979. There was a document at the county recorder's office that said Dorothy Mae Carter had given this property as a gift to Vanessa Howard. My signature was on it. I did not remember signing any gift deed, but I remembered those stacks of paper Vanessa put in front of me during those first foggy weeks. Just sign here, Mama. It's for the bank. Just sign here, Mama. It's for the insurance. She had slipped a deed transfer in among all the others, and I had signed away my home without knowing it. Renee turned to the second document, a lien taken on the property 2 months after the deed. Vanessa had borrowed $60,000 against my house, using a house she had stolen from me as collateral. Look at the attorney of record, Renee said. Raymond Pike, Vanessa's lawyer. His name on the filing. His retainer paid for money borrowed against my stolen house. One more thing. Renee pulled out the last document. Howard Holdings, LLC. A shell company, Vanessa's married name on it, designed to receive the house title and bury it under another layer. While Renee was at the county recorder, Tanya was in Richmond on the phone with the insurance company. Dorothy Mae Carter had authorized her in writing to request the records. Tanya knew how to ask for exactly what she needed. She got the beneficiary change forms and called me from her car. Mama, the signature on those forms. That is not your handwriting. The D in Dorothy, you make a very specific loop. This is close, but it isn't yours. Forged. Vanessa had not slipped a paper among other papers. She had written my name in a way that was not my hand, submitted it to an insurance company, and redirected $225,000. The cruelest thing was not the money. Forging my name was something else entirely. That was not taking my possessions. That was becoming me on paper to take what was mine. Gloria, meanwhile, had been following the money through the bank records with the precision of a surgeon. She found the checks payable to Howard Construction, Marcus's business account. $38,000 in transfers spread over months, timed carefully. And she found the ATM withdrawals, $500, every Friday. Same address. She ran it and found the card room on the east side. Marcus had been gambling my dead husband's pension money every single Friday. $500 a week at a card table. She called me. Her voice was very controlled. Gloria, Mama, add it all up. Bank accounts, $221,422. The house, $310,000 at the county's assessment, but James built it, so worth more than any number they could put on it. The lien, $60,000 in debt placed on the stolen house. The vehicles, James's truck to Deshawn, my Buick to Malik, $45,000 total. Life insurance, $225,000. Forged signature. Marcus's business transfers, $38,000. The gambling from the pension, $500 a week for 6 months. Mama, Gloria said, she stole over $800,000. $800,000. A lifetime. Literally a lifetime. James waking before sunrise, coming home after dark, saving, building, being careful, taken by our firstborn daughter while I sat in this house too broken to see it. I did not speak for a long moment. Good, I said. We know the full shape of it now. 3 days after that, Miss Erline Washington came to my back door. 3 sharp raps, the way she always knocked. She walked past me to the kitchen table and sat down. Dorothy Mae Carter, I need you to listen before you say a word. Erlene was 78 years old and had lived 3 houses down for 35 years. She had a memory like a surgical blade. She missed nothing. I was at the Church Ladies Fellowship last Tuesday. Vanessa was there, and what I heard was your daughter telling the women that you have dementia. The word landed like a stone in still water. She told them you're showing early signs, forgetting things, getting confused, can't live alone much longer. She's been saying this all over this neighborhood, Dorothy. Church people, neighbors, building a picture of you that would make everyone say, of course Vanessa had to step in. Poor Dorothy can't even remember what day it is. The money hurt. The house hurt. But this was different. This was not theft of what I owned. This was theft of who I was. She had walked into my community and put a false face on me, a confused face, a diminished face, a face that would make people look at me and see a woman who couldn't be trusted to know her own mind. I thought about what it would mean if this went to court. I thought about the picture she had been painting, one conversation at a time before I had any idea. Not just to keep people quiet now, to use later, in front of a judge. That was when I picked up Vernon Coleman's business card. I dialed. It rang twice. A woman answered. When I said my name, there was a brief pause. Then she said, "One moment, Mrs. Carter." And then a voice came on the line, deep and calm and utterly steady. "Mrs. Carter, this is Vernon Coleman." "Mr. Coleman, my name is Dorothy Carter, James Carter's wife." "Dorothy." His voice settled around my name the way a person says something familiar, something James had spoken in front of him many times. "I am so sorry about James. He was one of the finest men I ever knew. He left me a letter. And your card. He said you'd been waiting for my call." 5 years, Vernon said. "I've been waiting 5 years. Tell me what's happened." I told him everything. The POA, the bank accounts, the forged deed, the lien, Howard Holdings, LLC, the vehicles, the forged insurance signatures, the transfers to Marcus, the gambling, the dementia lies spread through my church and neighborhood, my daughters cut off from their mother for 8 months. Vernon was quiet for a moment. "Dorothy, everything James put in place was designed for exactly this scenario. The Carter Family Trust supersedes any power of attorney. It supersedes the gift deed Vanessa filed. It supersedes anything she has done. Your house is yours. There is documentation at First National Bank, safety deposit box 114, that confirms every bit of it. I have the key." "Good. I need you to bring me everything your daughters have gathered. Come to my office as soon as possible." A pause. "Dorothy, I also need to tell you something. I checked the court filings this morning, out of caution because James told me to watch for exactly this if you ever called." My hand tightened on the phone. "There is a guardianship petition filed against you," Vernon said. "Filed 2 days ago by Raymond Pike, acting on behalf of Vanessa Howard. If that petition is granted, a court would declare you legally incompetent. Vanessa would become your legal guardian. She could place you in a nursing home. She would have complete authority over your finances and your living situation. And every piece of evidence your daughters have gathered would become inaccessible because you would no longer have legal standing to act in your own name." The silence between us was not empty. It was very full. "How long do we have?" I said. "Not long, but Dorothy, hear me. We have the trust, we have the evidence, we have the truth, and I have been ready for this call for 5 years. I want you in my office first thing tomorrow morning. I'll be there. Every day matters now." I set the phone down and sat at James's kitchen table in James' house. I thought about the word Vernon had used, guardianship. Vanessa was not just stealing. She had been building towards something. Every lie at the church, every document she put in front of me during those foggy weeks, every call she screened and every visit she blocked, all of it had been building toward a piece of paper that would make her my keeper. A piece of paper that would let her put me in a facility and close the door, and nobody would question it because a judge would have said it was proper. She was not going to stop. She had never planned to stop, but neither was I. She came on a Tuesday night, No call first, just headlights sweeping across the kitchen wall and the sound of her key in the lock, the same lock her father had installed on a Saturday morning in 1984 when she was 8 years old and he had let her hold the screws. I was at the kitchen table when she came in, hands folded, waiting, because I had known she was coming. Vernon had told me the guardianship petition was filed, and I knew Vanessa well enough to know she would show up before I could show up anywhere else. Mama. She stood in the doorway with Marcus behind her, arms crossed the way they always were. Her voice was smooth, practiced. I heard you've been speaking with a lawyer. I'm worried about you. I looked at my daughter. I did not move. I'm fine, Vanessa. Mama, I don't think you understand what you're doing. These lawyers, they come in and they fill your head with ideas. You're grieving. You're not thinking straight. I've been protecting you. Everything I've done has been to take care of you. You've been managing my money, I said, for 8 months, and I'd like to look at the accounts. Something shifted behind her eyes. Quick, gone in a second. Mama, I don't think that's a good idea right now. You get confused looking at numbers. I let that sit. I let her stand there believing it. I've been thinking, she said, softer now, sliding into the chair across from me like we were just having coffee, that you might be more comfortable somewhere with staff, people to help you. You shouldn't be alone in this house. It's too big for one person. And your health, my health is fine. Mama, you know you forget things. I know I signed papers I didn't understand because my daughter told me they were insurance forms. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Marcus stepped forward. Miss Dorothy, we're just trying to help. Marcus, I said, and I looked at him with 43 years of knowledge behind my eyes. Sit down and be quiet. He stopped. Vanessa's voice changed. The soft edges fell away. And what was underneath was harder and flatter and real. Mama, I'm telling you right now, if you go to court with this, I have to protect myself. Raymond is ready. He's going to present evidence about your condition, about your memory, about your ability to live alone. It's going to be embarrassing for everyone. Is that a threat? It's reality. Drop this. And I keep managing things. You stay in your house. Nobody has to know anything, but if you push me, if I push you, what? She looked at me, her firstborn eyes, her father's chin, my mother's nose. I'll tell the judge the truth, Mama, that you've been declining for over a year, that you need supervised care, that this house is too much for you to manage alone. I said it quietly. None of that is true, Vanessa. And that is when she said it. She leaned back in the chair and looked at me the way you look at something you have already decided to move out of your way. It doesn't matter what's true, Mama. It matters what people believe. And I've spent 8 months making sure they believe me. There it was. I did not blink. She had said it out loud in her father's kitchen. Standing on the floor, he laid with his own hands, looking at me with eyes that used to search my face for comfort and now searched it for weakness. I did not give her any. She pushed back her chair. Marcus took her arm. They walked out. The front door closed. The headlights swept the wall one more time, and then they were gone. I sat. I did not call Gloria. Not yet. I needed 1 minute. 1 minute to feel the full weight of what she had just told me before I turned it into something I could use. I had been building a case, documenting crimes, mapping stolen dollars, learning the shape of her betrayal from the outside in, but that sentence was different. That sentence was from the inside out. She had not just stolen from me. She had looked me in the eye and told me she knew exactly what she was doing the whole time. Every prayer circle, every conversation at the church parking lot, every sympathetic head tilt and whispered word about poor, confused Dorothy. She had built it on purpose, brick by brick, just the way her father had built this house. The daughter I had loved, the girl I had held first in the delivery room at 7:42 in the morning on a cold November day, was not the woman who had just left my kitchen. That girl was gone. Maybe she had been gone a long time. What walked out tonight was something that had used her face. I was not angry. I was done. The next morning, Miss Erline called before I finished my coffee. Dorothy, I was at Second Baptist last night for the Mission Circle meeting. I need you to listen to me. I'm listening. Vanessa was there early. I saw her talking to Reverend Moore in the hallway before the meeting started. She was explaining about the hearing. She told him, and I am quoting you exactly what I heard with my own 2 ears standing 4 feet away, that the judge was going to determine whether you could continue living independently, and that she had already arranged with a facility in Lawrenceville that had a room available. The room in Lawrenceville. She had already picked a room. She has a plan, Dorothy, and it moves fast. Whatever you and Vernon are doing, you need to do it faster. I thanked Erline and went to find the key. James's key. The one from the Bible envelope. Flat and brass and small enough to sit in the palm of my hand like a seat. Box 114, First National Bank downtown branch. Vernon met me there. He did not say much. He knew what this was. He had been waiting, he told me, for 5 years, since the day James sat across from him in his office and said, "Vernon, I need to build something that'll hold after I'm gone." The safety deposit box was smaller than I expected, the kind of small that makes you wonder how much a thing can hold. But when Vernon lifted the lid and I looked inside, I understood that James Carter had always known how to put exactly what was needed into exactly the right space. The Carter Family Trust documents were there, bound and notarized and real, the way James made everything real. And underneath them, a letter, sealed, my name on the front in his handwriting. Vernon gave me a moment. I opened it. Dorothy, if you are reading this, then my worst fears came true, and Vanessa crossed the line I couldn't stop before it happened. I am sorry for that. I tried to see around corners, but I could not see all of them. What I could do was build you a door out. Vernon knows where everything is. Trust him like you trusted me. The house is yours. It always was. The 2 acres on Miller Road that nobody knows about, they are yours too. And the policy inside the trust is yours. I set it up so she could never touch it. Never knew about it. You are the strongest woman I have ever known. Dorothy May, you never needed me to fight for you. I just wanted to make sure you had the right tools. All my love, always, James. I sat in the bank's private room for a few minutes. Vernon came back in when I was ready. He walked me through everything. The Carter Family Trust held the deed to 1847 Oakwood Drive, established 5 years before James died, which meant the gift deed Vanessa had filed was void on the day she filed it. The trust also held the deed to 2 acres on Miller Road, assessed at $180,000, land James had purchased quietly 30 years ago and never mentioned to anyone but Vernon. And it held a life insurance policy taken out separately from the family policy Vanessa had tampered with for $250,000 with the trust as beneficiary. $250,000 that Vanessa did not know existed. $180,000 in land that Vanessa did not know existed. The deed to the house she thought she owned. $750,000 total. She had spent 8 months stealing from me. James had spent 6 months, 5 years before he died, making sure she couldn't keep it. He came to me 2 years after Marcus joined the family, Vernon said. He told me Marcus was gambling, that he was worried about the direction things were going. He said he wasn't going to say anything to you because he didn't want to alarm you, but he was going to make sure you were protected. We built the trust over 6 months. He reviewed every document himself. You know how he was? I did know. He measured twice, cut once, built things to last. The rest of that week moved like the last few miles of a long road. Renee came over with her folders, red, blue, green, yellow. She spread them across the kitchen table, the same table where Vanessa had sat 3 nights ago and threatened me, and she went through every piece of evidence with the focus of someone who had found her calling. Bank records in blue, forged deed, lien, shell company filing in red, insurance fraud in green, the dementia lie, Erline's testimony, every person Vanessa had told, every lie document in yellow. I want that judge to drown in paper, Renee said. I told her that was exactly right. Vernon filed the emergency petition on Monday. He called me at noon. It's filed. The hearing is set. And Dorothy, I filed a criminal complaint with the district attorney's office this morning. Everything we have, all of it, bank fraud, forgery, elder abuse, the shell company, the lien against stolen property, I gave it to them. The DA called me back within the hour. They confirmed they will have someone present at the hearing. On Wednesday morning, 2 days before the court date, I heard a knock at the back door. 7 a.m, work closed. Tall, built like his father, with his mother's eyes and his grandfather's hands. Deshawn. I opened the door and looked at my grandson and saw James Carter in miniature standing on my porch, choosing which way to walk. Grandma, can I come in? He sat at the kitchen table. He looked at his hands. Mom told us about the hearing. She said we might have to testify about the trucks. She said Grandpa wanted us to have them. I waited. But I know that's not true. He looked up. Because Grandpa told me himself. He said I'd get the truck official when the time was right. He never signed it over. Then after the funeral, Mom showed up and said she had the title transferred. Said you agreed. I didn't agree to it, Deshawn. I know, Grandma. His eyes were wet. I'll give it back. I'll do whatever you need. I couldn't sit there knowing what I know and not say something. I looked at this boy who had come to my back door the way my daughters had come, the way the truth always comes, through the side entrance, quietly, without announcement. Keep the truck for now, I told him. Your grandfather wanted you to have it, and you'll get it the right way when this is done. But I need you to know something. What your mother did was wrong, not just to me, to you. She put you in the middle of something you should never have been in. I know. You don't testify against your grandmother, and when this is over, whatever happens, you don't hate her either. You can love someone and hold them accountable at the same time. Your grandfather believed that. He hugged me before he left, a long, tight hug that smelled like motor oil and morning and James Carter. I stood in the kitchen after he was gone and thought about what Vanessa had built and what she had broken and how the two were not the same thing. That night, I walked through the house, every room, every hallway. I touched the walls. I ran my fingers along the banister James had carved. I stood in the kitchen where 47 years of our life together had happened. Tomorrow the judge would look at what James built and decide if Vanessa could keep it. But I knew something Vanessa did not know. I knew that James had built 2 things, the house on Oakwood Drive and the fortress around it. I went to sleep. The next morning, I put on my cream-colored suit, the one I saved for Easter and funerals, my good shoes, the pearl earrings James gave me the day Vanessa was born. At 7 a.m, Gloria pulled up in front of the house. Renee was in the passenger seat. Tanya was in the back with 3 boxes of evidence. I walked out the front door, not the back, the front. Everything was in place. Courtroom 3B, second floor, wood paneling, fluorescent lights, the American flag behind the judge's bench. Miss Erline was already outside on the bench in her big cream church hat with the ribbon, Bible open in her lap. She stood when she saw me. The Lord told me to put on my good hat and go tell the truth, so here I am. We went inside. Vernon at the table, me beside him. Then Vanessa walked in, black suit, hair back, gold jewelry, a woman who believed she had already won. Behind her came Raymond Pike, short and wide, red-faced. Marcus came in last and looked at his phone. Vanessa did not look at me. The Honorable Patricia Simmons entered, a black woman in her late 50s, reading glasses, a face that had seen everything and was not easily impressed. She called the case. Vernon stood. He laid it out. $221,422 drained from my accounts. My home transferred through a fraudulent gift deed. Vehicles retitled to grandsons, a forged insurance signature, a $60,000 lien against stolen property, $30,000 of it paid to Raymond Pike's law firm for this very proceeding. A false dementia narrative spread deliberately to isolate me. And at the end, the thing Vanessa had no idea was coming. The Carter Family Trust. $750,000, superseding everything. Judge Simmons did not put her pen down once. Gloria went first. 30 minutes, every transaction, spreadsheets with dates, amounts, destination accounts. She showed the pension redirected 3 days after the funeral, the $500 weekly cash withdrawals traced to a card room on the east side, $247,000 to Vanessa's accounts, $38,000 to Marcus's business. Total removed from your mother's accounts, $238,222. Theft plus 8 months of redirected pension. Pike tried to cross. Your sister had a legal power of attorney. She had the legal authority, not the moral right. A power of attorney is a responsibility, not a blank check. Pike had nothing else. Renee went next. She laid out the fraudulent gift deed, the $60,000 lien, the $30,000 retainer paid to Pike from stolen property, and Howard Holdings, LLC, the shell company Vanessa tried to hide the house in, already blocked by a flag Vernon had placed on the property record. Your Honor, the respondent is paying for her legal defense with money borrowed against a house she stole from our mother. Judge Simmons looked at Pike over her glasses. He said nothing. Pike's cross. No law degree? No appraiser license? Renee looked at him. Mr. Pike, I don't need a law degree to read my mother's name forged on a gift deed. I need eyes. Then Tanya, my baby. Simple black dress. No folders. She told them about the 4 drives from Richmond, 3 hours each, turned away every time. Mama sleeping, Mama unwell. The last time Vanessa on Daddy's porch telling her their mother no longer knew her face. My mother has known my face for 38 years. Her voice cracked and steadied. And my sister stood on that porch and told me my mother didn't know who I was. Someone in the gallery was crying, then another. When you finally saw your mother, what was her mental state? Sharp, clear, dates, amounts, names, account numbers, all from memory, no notes. If my mother has dementia, Your Honor, she is the most organized person with dementia in the history of medicine. Pike declined to cross-examine. Pike called Dr. Wells. White coat, clinical language, cognitive decline in elderly widows. Vernon stood. One question. Dr. Wells, have you ever personally examined Dorothy Mae Carter? No. Vernon sat down. Earlene walked to that stand like she was walking to the pulpit. She adjusted the church hat and looked straight at Judge Simmons. My name is Earline Washington, 78 years old, Dorothy Carter's neighbor for 35 years. And I am here to tell you that Dorothy Carter does not have dementia or cognitive decline. She has a daughter who lies. She described their Scrabble games. Every Thursday, Dorothy wins 4 out of 5. Last month, quixotic on a triple word score. She described Vanessa in the church parking lot, telling Mrs. Patterson that Dorothy didn't recognize people anymore. Earline standing 4 feet away, contradicting her on the spot. Pike stood for cross. Mrs. Washington, you're 78 years old. Isn't it possible your memory is imperfect? Earlene looked at him over the top of her glasses. Mr. Pike, I remember the exact date you filed your bar complaint in 2014 for overbilling a client. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Shall I continue demonstrating or shall we move on? The courtroom laughed. Judge Simmons pressed her lips together. No further questions, Pike said. Pike called Mrs. Patterson, his character witness. Vanessa was counting on her. Mrs. Patterson sat down. She looked at me, then at Vanessa, then at the judge. Your Honor, I came here to say Dorothy was confused, and I was going to say it. But after 2 hours in this courtroom, I cannot. I will not lie under oath. She turned to Vanessa. I'm sorry, baby, but your mama's fine. And what you did was wrong. Vanessa stared at the table. She did not move. Pike asked for a recess. Judge Simmons denied it. Vernon laid the Carter family trust on the judge's bench. The original deed to 1847 Oakwood Drive held in trust. The deed to 2 acres on Miller Road, assessed at $180,000. A separate life insurance policy inside the trust, $250,000, unknown to Vanessa, hidden for 5 years. Total, $750,000. The gift deed Vanessa Howard filed is void. The property was held in trust before, during, and after the power of attorney was signed. She cannot give away what she never owned. I looked at Vanessa. Her face had gone still. James had built the fortress before she ever came looking. She had walked in holding every card she thought she had. She had not held a single one. Judge Simmons reviewed the evidence for 30 minutes. The courtroom waited in silence. Marcus had stopped looking at his phone. For the first time, he looked afraid. The judge returned. She removed her glasses. A 72-year-old woman, grief so deep she trusted her eldest daughter with everything, and a daughter who used that trust to steal everything her parents had built. She looked at Vanessa. You drained her accounts. You transferred her home through fraud. You forged her insurance forms. You borrowed against stolen property to pay for this defense. But what disturbs me most is not the money. It is the isolation. You told your community she had dementia. You blocked her daughter. You manufactured a false narrative. Then you petitioned this court to have her declared incompetent. She put her glasses back on. Mrs. Carter is not confused. She is a courageous woman who is betrayed by someone she loved. The gavel. The power of attorney is revoked. The gift deed is void. The Carter Family Trust is the controlling legal document. All transfers, retitlings, and beneficiary changes are ordered reversed within 30 days. The counterpetition for guardianship is denied. This matter is referred to the district attorney for criminal investigation. Ms. Howard, you had a mother who loved you, a father who built a home for your family with his own hands, and you treated their life's work like a checking account. This court is done with you. The district attorney will not be. The gavel came down. The courtroom released. Gloria grabbed Renee. Tanya came over the railing and held me. Erline stood with tears on her face, hat slightly crooked, saying over and over, I told you, the truth walks. Marcus stood from his chair. He looked at the door. 1 step, 2, 3, 4. The officer at the back of the room cut him off. Handcuffs, no speech, no drama, just a man who always ran, caught for the last time. Vernon touched my arm. Dorothy, you don't have to. I shook him off. Vanessa had not moved, still at the table, staring at nothing. I stood next to my firstborn, the baby I held first. Vanessa, she raised her eyes, red, empty. Why, Mama? Why didn't you just let me have it? Comfortable in whose house, on whose terms? That's not comfort. That's a cage. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to own me. There's a difference. She looked at me. Then, you'll regret this. When I'm in prison and your grandchildren have no mother, you'll regret this. No remorse. No apology. One final manipulation. I touched her hand. She didn't pull away. I love you. I will always love you, but I will never let you hurt me again. I turned and walked out. Gloria was at the door. Tanya had Erline's arm. The sun was shining through the courthouse windows. Outside, the steps were warm, the kind of day James loved. Let's go home, girl. For the first time in 8 months, we all went home together, through the front door. The weeks that followed moved differently. Charges were filed. Plea deals were put on the table. The law was doing what it was supposed to do, and I let it. Vanessa took the plea deal. 5 years. Parole eligible in 3. Elder financial abuse, grand larceny, fraud, forgery. Marcus got 6 years, no parole for 4. Conspiracy to commit elder abuse, money laundering, fraud. The shell company, the gambling, the checks to Howard Construction, all of it entered into the record. He had not made it 4 steps toward that door before the officer stopped him. Raymond Pike went before the state bar. Erline's testimony about March 17th of 2014 was already in the public record. And accepting a $30,000 retainer drawn from a lien on stolen property tends to attract the kind of attention a law license cannot survive. I did not follow those proceedings closely. I had other things to tend to. Vernon executed the asset recovery with the precision he brought to everything. Within 2 weeks, the bank accounts were restored. James's pension, $2,100 a month, was redirected back to me. With 8 months of back payments, $16,800 deposited in a single day. I sat at the kitchen table and looked at that number for a long time. That was James's money, his years, his sacrifice, It was home. The house at 1847 Oakwood Drive was re-recorded in the Carter Family Trust by court order. The fraudulent gift deed voided. The lien flagged as fraudulent. The bank that issued it opened its own investigation into how they had ever approved a loan secured against a stolen property. The house James built with his own hands was in his name and mine, where it had always belonged. James's life insurance policy was corrected, beneficiary changes reversed, James's wishes restored. That meant Vanessa's share went back in. "You're leaving her share?" Gloria asked. "It was your father's policy. He wanted all 4 of his girls to have something from him. I'm not going to punish his memory because of what she did." She shook her head. She was learning something that takes most people a lifetime to understand. Justice gives back what was taken. Revenge takes more than what is owed. James's truck came back on a Tuesday. Deshaun drove it over himself, parked it in the driveway, left the keys on the kitchen table, and hugged me without a word. He had washed it and changed the oil. Carter Contracting was still painted on the door and faded lettuce. I stood in the driveway after he left and put my hand on the hood. It was warm from the drive. That boy had his grandfather's heart, even after everything his mother had tried to make him into. I did not underestimate what coming back had cost him. My Buick returned a week later, compelled by Vernon's letter and a court order. Dent in the rear fender, 8,000 new miles I had not driven. I did not care. It was mine again. Deacon Harris came to the porch to apologize for the prayer circle, the one for my mind. He sat with me and Erland and said they should have been praying for my protection instead. "That's no excuse. I know, see," he said. "We knew you. Watched you teach Sunday school for 20 years, manage the building committee budget, run the food pantry. A woman who can manage a building committee budget does not have dementia." Erline set down her tea. "I have been saying that for months, but nobody listens to Erline until the judge agrees with her." Mrs. Caldwell came to the door with a casserole and red eyes. 30 years in the same congregation, and she had taken Vanessa's word over her own eyes. I told her that Vanessa had fooled a lot of people who loved her. That was the truth, and the truth does not require embellishment. I took the casserole, and then one quiet Thursday night, I finally cried. Not in front of anyone, not for performance. I was sitting in James's recliner, the house still and warm, and it came. 8 months of grief I had held at arm's length because I needed my hands free for something else. 8 months of missing him until the missing sat behind my ribs like a stone. I held the armrest where his hands had rested for 40 years, and I let it come. When it was done, I was lighter than I had been since the morning he drew his last breath. I exhaled, long and slow and deep, the first honest breath in a very long time. By spring, the Miller Road land had a purpose. Gloria, Renee, and Tanya came through the front door one evening, wine and flowers and a cake from Tanya's favorite Richmond bakery. We sat at the kitchen table and let the evening run long. Then Gloria set down her glass. "Mama, what are you going to do with the Miller Road property?" "I want to build a community center on that land," I said. "A place for women who have been through what I have been through. Elder abuse, financial exploitation, family betrayal. A place where someone tells them they are not crazy, they are not confused, and they do not have to face it alone. I want to call it the Carter Center." "After your father?" Tanya cried first. "She always does." Renee reached across the table and took my hand. Gloria already had her phone out, looking up zoning requirements before I finished the sentence. I told them the contractor had to be good because James would come back from the dead and haunt me if I put a crook wall in a building with his name on it. We laughed. All 4 of us. A real laugh, the kind that fills a kitchen and spills out the windows. 6 months later, David, the young contractor who had apprenticed under James 20 years ago, poured the foundation level in true on Miller Road, not one corner cut. He had dropped his price in half when he heard whose name would go on the building. Renee earned her paralegal certificate and ran the legal aid clinic inside the center, passing forward everything Vernon had taught her during our case. Erland cut the ribbon at the opening in her best hat, scissors in hand, no hesitation. "I have earned every inch of this ribbon," she told the crowd, and nobody argued. Months later, Deshaun came to visit. He told me Vanessa had heard about the Carter Center. She had not said a word, but she had cried. I thought about that for a moment. My daughter, hearing that her mother had taken the land that was supposed to be her leverage and built something beautiful on it. "She still has her father in her," I said. "That part never left." That evening, I sat in James's recliner. The leather creaked the way it always had. The house was quiet, the particular quiet that belongs to a place that has survived something and is still standing. The clock on the mantel ticked. The shadows settled into their familiar corners. I reached into my pocket and took out the small silver key. Box 114. I had not needed it in months, but I kept it with me every day. A reminder of what a man who loves you will hide inside, the things you already own, just in case. I held it in my palm and closed my fingers around it. I had learned something through all of this that I would carry the rest of my life. Love is not a reason to surrender your dignity, and justice is not revenge dressed up in legal language. Justice restores what was taken. Revenge just wants to take something back. I had things right now. Everything James had built still standing. Everything I had fought for returned. "Rest easy, James," I said to the quiet room. "Your girls are going to be just fine." The evening light came through the front window the way it always had, the way it had come every evening in this house since 1979, when a young contractor laid the first brick and decided his family deserved something that would last. It had lasted, so had I.